G'day, welcome back. This is the next video in my series on World Chess Championship blunders, and we're making really steady progress here. We're now up to 1981, the second match between Anatoly Karpov and Victor the Terrible Korchnoi. Now, 1978 was a pretty tense affair. In the end, Karpov won 6-5, although he had led quite substantially in the match. This match was a bit of a walkover. It was 6-2 in the end. And I think a little Wikipedia page, the Massacre of Merano, which sort of captures the sort of the summary of the match. So there's only a couple of blunders to look at, so it should be a pretty quick video today. We're going to look at, first of all, a blunder in the candidates match, because just sort of it was quite sad as well. And then we're going to look at games 6 and games 13. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the analysis screen. Before we go into that, I might just bring up the Wikipedia page just to give a bit of background. So Merano in Italy is where this second match was, 6-2. And you can see that by this stage, Korchnoi is getting on a bit. 50 years old, probably one of the oldest challenges we've had. And then once again, you can scroll down, you can see that the interzonals, Tal Polyevsky and Dorian from the Riga interzonal and Rio de Janeiro interzonal, Portage Petrosian and Robert Hubner. And then you have the candidates matches, and you can see that in the end, Korchnoi beat Hubner to qualify again to meet Karpov. Okay, so that's where we're at. Funnily enough, there was this Wikipedia page mentions a blunder by Robert Hubner. In his match, he was actually leading, and they lost 2 games in a row, including a very bad blunder. So we'll look at that blunder first. The fact that there are a lot of blunders which actually have meaningful impacts on people's careers. I mean, Hubner is less well known than other people of that era, like Jan Timman and so on, and Larsen, but very, very strong player. Okay, so let's load up this game, and let's go to the relevant position. Here's the relevant position. Hubner played King D5. Have a look at this position and see what the problem with that move was. Yeah, it allows a simple knight fork. Knight to there, check. And then that will fork the king and the rook. And then unfortunately, when we take the rook, we will be guarding the rook, and there's no way of inconveniencing the knight and rook combination. And that is basically just blundered a rook. So that was pretty sad, and that was one of the reasons why Hubner did not qualify to challenge the world champion. Okay, so now let's go back to the World Championship matches, and let's move to game number 6 and scroll down to the relevant position. You can see the match score here, by the way, just quickly before we go on to this, have a look at that. Because Karpov is in blue and he's just leading by overall score and by wins score. Once again, this is one of those ones we had win 6, so that was he was well on the way to that very early and won quite straightforward fashion. Don't know why that's showing 3, by the way, but anyway, whatever. What we see is that the bottom right chart showing the score of this game. So this game should have been drawn, and then Karpov made a couple of simple blunders and lost the game. So let's have a look at this one. Relevant position is right here. Basically balanced. Black's had a bit of advantage. We have white's sort of turning the tables around, and the move which Black just played, Queen D5. It's threatening pressure down this diagonal, so white should organize a defense. So this I wouldn't call this a terrible error, but just interesting to see how it's dealt with, right? How would you defend your G2 square, right? The way Karpov did it was not the right way. Let's just go through the game continuation first. Knight F1, so bishop to E4 as indicated, and then now this is probably the issue that white just plays bishop F4 and then bishop takes G2, which is the game continuation. That's basically game over, right? Getting killed on those white squares, and also this square here is very weak. Maybe the bishop hop there, try and checkmate there. All sorts of things going wrong here, right? So Karpov resigned. Okay, let's go back. Karpov might have been relying on, which doesn't work either. You'd think F3 might work, but I thought this line was quite interesting. F3, so you just snap it off, and then now knight comes careening in, so it's threatening a deadly check on the F3 square, and there is not a lot to do about it. And also you've got haven't marked it up, but you have checks down the G file, and the best defense here is knight H2, and then you take it off, and then although it actually gives queen takes D3, which actually covers this square, you can see white is still in a lot of trouble we're going to be able to take the bishop, check on g3, and just totally lost. Okay, so let's go back to what the defense was. So knight f1 didn't work, just broke through on g2. But the defense here, which needed a little calculation. It goes as follows: knight to e2. Now, because of the pin, pawn can't take the knight. So, and the threat is actually hopping the knight to f4, which will attack the queen and also guard the f2 square. So that's the defense organized. In fact, queen b4, and then knight to f4, and the game goes on. Anyway, so that was a bit of an oversight. Karpov didn't find the best defense to the threats to his king. Okay, so that's that game. Pretty simple. And let's move on to game 13. And this is a double blunder. This one, you can see this is Karpov as black is really pushing hard. But it's actually in a bit of trouble. Mostly to do with this file here. The queen's in a bit of trouble, and if the queen moves away, then we have a nasty check on e6. So anyway, so black continues, knight e1 check, and here's the key. One move here wins, and one move potentially loses, right? Now, so a bit of a think. So what was played was king h2, which is wrong. And the reason why that's wrong is that game continuation breaks through check, okay? And then now what you would expect is, now this is a check because the king's on h2, and then after the king moves, the knight will pick up the bishop and black will be well on top. But for whatever reason, black did not take the bishop with check, and then now check there, rook f7, and it's fun. White's got a bishop. So this game, white eventually won because he had a bishop. He's got a bishop which he shouldn't have had. Now we go back to the starting position where what was doing king h1? Well, obviously the same continuation. Queen takes bishop, and then now rook takes wouldn't work because of queen takes check, and we get the bishop, right? So that's why king h1 was actually winning anyway, right? So that was just a little bit complicated. Obviously, the way that Karpov played was quite baffling. He ended up not winning an extra piece he should have been winning. As simple as that. Okay, so that's fine. So that's a pretty quick one today. Just that candidate's blunder by Hubner, and then these two quick errors in the what was a very one-sided World Chess Championship match. And then obviously next time we'll get around to 984, and that's when the era of the Karpov and Kasparov matches commences. Okay, hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching.